welcome back to the Clubhouse 54 podcast. I'm Michael Little. We have Drew Lockhart and a special guest here today. Our guest here is the Director of Instruction at Sunnybrook Golf Club. He is a best in state instructor in Pennsylvania, and he is also the owner of the Sheftic Performance Center. Mark Sheftic, welcome to our podcast.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, welcome, Mark. It's great to see you, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really good to see you. So just for all of our listeners, the three of us actually worked together for a short period of time at a local club here in Philadelphia. And there were some fun days working together, and I definitely miss that. So it's really good to be reunited with the two of you in the same room again.
Absolutely. Feel the same.
Drew?
What do you want me to say? You said it all. Like, I agree. Like, kudos.
So Mark, thank you for joining us. And, we know your story, and we want to get it out there and just hear it from you, and to give all of our listeners an idea of, where you're from, where you grew up, how you got into golf, and, really how you got to where you are today. So if you don't mind just, starting out with, I know you grew up in York, PA, and your dad was a golf pro, and could you just kind of share some of that with us here?
I grew up actually just outside of York at New Oxford, and my dad was the head pro at Hanover Country Club for over 30 years. So born and raised at Hanover, spent my entire youth there. Family time was picking the range on Sunday nights.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was fortunate to always be around the game. Didn't really get serious till I was about 15 years old, but it was, great atmosphere. Made a lot of great members, a lot of good influences, and it was fun.
So before you were 15, did it feel more like work when you were there?
Well, again, being born and raised at a country club, you were, that's a good way of putting it. You were there to work. My dad, my mom worked. My mom pretty much ran the pro shop. My dad pretty much taught, and my brother and myself, parking carts, cleaning bags, picking the range, anything you had to do. So when we were always played a little bit, but when you were there, you were really working. Okay.
So is that where like the lack of, say, passion to play came from? It felt like it was more of a job, or was it a skill level thing? Was it like what was it that you didn't really get too involved with the game before 15?
I guess because you were around it, you kind of took it for granted.
Got it.
Okay. And at the time, golf wasn't cool.
Yep.
Played basketball, played baseball, hung out with my friends, and just really didn't know what I had. And then at about age 15, this is going to be on camera, but I wasn't the best student. Okay. I was a pretty solid C average student. And then one of the members who became a very close personal friend came to me and they said, well, Mark, what are you going to do? You're not going to live in New Oxford, Hanover the rest of your life. You have every opportunity. Your dad's a great teacher. You got a club at your disposal. And I started to really think about where life's going to take me. And academically, it's going to be hard to get into college. So about 15, I just went all in. Do not know else how to explain it. I just went all in, and I said, okay, I'm going to give this thing a run, and I'm going to see what I can do.
Wow.
And basically, one thing my mom and dad instilled in me is work ethic. I'll outwork you. And the problem is I'm talking to Mike Little here, and Mike has the same attitude, and so does Drew. But, my theory is I'm going to outwork you, and I wouldn't say I'm the most gifted athlete. I was very proficient at doing things. If I could see things, I could make them happen. Being dyslexic, I wasn't, if I had to read something, I couldn't comprehend it. But if you gave me an activity that I could actually see and get my hands on, I could shoot a basketball, I could throw a football, I could do all that kind of stuff. I realized I'm not the fastest, or I'm not going to jump the highest, but I could hit a golf ball. And I figured that's going to be the segue that's going to give me a direction.
Wow.
And literally just went after it.
That's great. So how long did it take you to become like a competitive golfer?
I think what my dad and my mom instilled with me is go get your butt kicked. Go learn from the best. Don't be intimidated. Just go out there and learn. The more better players I was around, the better player I became. And I got my butt whipped a million times. I made a million mistakes. I got a lot of my education was the LPGA. My dad taught over 30 LPGA girls, and I got to spend a lot of time with Nancy Bowen and a lot of the girls, and I would go out and play with them, and they taught me course management. Mark, why would you go at that pin? Why would you hit that club? Why would you swing that hard?
Wow.
And all of a sudden, because of good people, my success is the hard work of smart people. You know, I'm here because a lot of good people gave me direction. They were brutally honest. They told me what I needed to do. I mean, you talk to any good player, they always say you have a good team around you. I had a good team. My mom and dad were brilliant. They gave me a lot of love, but they were also very hard on me. I had to earn everything I got. So if I wanted to do something, I had to earn it. And I think that's the most, for me, that taught me work ethic, and nothing was given to me. I had opportunity, but I had to go out there and go get it done. And being surrounded by smart people, being surrounded by good players, and people telling me what I need to be told. Don't be nice to me. Tell me what I need to do to get better. I listened. I took it to heart, and each day I tried to get a little better.
Wow, that's really cool. That really does paint the picture of who you are too, of getting to know you over the last 10 years, and that's exactly who you are. I mean, that's awesome to hear, because I've never heard that from you before. So that's awesome. I mean, you know, it's funny, in golf you have to learn how to lose. You know, because you're losing. You may know the percentage, but you're losing the majority of the time you tee it up. If not every time you tee it up, you're losing.
I mean, what's the successful in the PGA Tour? If you win one tournament a year, it's a successful season.
Well,
Unless you're Tiger Woods.
Well, yeah, of course.
But if you win one PGA tournament, I think you've had a hell of a year.
So at our level, what would be a successful year then?
Well, you know, first of all, if you know anything about Mike Little is one of the best players in the area. You are. And, you know, in the Philadelphia section, when I look at the list of players I have to beat, Mike's name always resonates in the back of my mind. I got to play good golf to beat this guy. And I think at our level as a club pro, you know, the Philadelphia section, I think gives us a great platform to compete at a high level, to keep our game sharp, so we get ready for the National Club Pro and other events. And we have a lot of really good players in this section. And what's fun, I'm in golf purgatory. That means I'm at 48, and I'm really looking forward to moving up a set of tees. I can tell you that right now. So I don't hit the ball as long as I used to. But, you know, seeing these younger kids come out, how far they hit it, the talent level, they're not afraid to win. It actually keeps me going. It actually keeps my competitive juices going, because I love a challenge.
You know, we had Braden Shattuck on last week.
Great player.
And one of the things that we said to Braden was thank you, because you are raising everyone's level in Philadelphia. We all have to work that much harder now to compete with him. And the things that he was telling us on his podcast, it's like, I looked over at Drew, I said, we're all in trouble. Like, he's got it figured out exactly the way he wants it, and his game is sharp, you know. And I look at it like the measure of success in Philadelphia on the Philly PGA, say, tour, you know, can you get into that top five? You don't even have to win. Can you just get into the top five? And if you can get in there and stay in there and finish there, I think that's a successful year with the talent that we have in this area.
You hit the nail on the head. You get a Braden Shattuck. I mean, great guy, great player, won the Club Pro, represents Philadelphia. The rest of us are like, okay, now I got to work harder.
Yeah.
Because of guys like Braden. And, you know, when a Braden Shattuck wins the National Club Pro representing Philadelphia section, it's a win for all of us. Mm-hmm. You know, it really is. So, again, Braden, if you're watching this, phenomenal job. Congratulations.
So let's go back a little bit now.
Yep.
We kind of got off topic, which I know we're going to do a lot in this. Drew hates me.
You should
for
have
it,
saw
by
us
the
at
way.
work.
So, all right. So 15, you're learning on your LPGA Tour pros. You're getting better at golf. You're getting competitive. So, I mean, you're getting into high school, college. Like, can you walk us through that? Did you play for high school and in college?
So I played for New Oxford. The very first tournament I ever won was out of spite. My dad, I'm not going to say the name. My dad had an assistant pro, and we had this thing called the York County Amateur. It was the big amateur in York County, and I signed up for it, and I was one of the youngest players to play in it, qualified. And the guy said to me, the assistant pro said, Mark, why don't you just give me the $100 because you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of even making the cut.
Wow.
And it was the biggest slap in the face, and I specifically remember I went into that tournament just to shut him up.
How old was he?
Mid-30s. I was 16.
Wow.
And, I
might have been abused as a child then, huh?
He wasn't a nice guy. But I will tell you this. You take a positive, you take a negative, and turn it into a positive. I literally went in that tournament, and my only mindset was, I'm going to shut him up.
Was he a good player?
No, he was. I mean, well, I would say no.
Okay.
But anyways, it was a lot of negative energy behind the scenes. All you do is practice and you can't break an egg. So I went to that tournament with vengeance, with one purpose was to shut him up.
Nice.
And I remember I was the youngest kid it might be different now. This was a long time ago. I was the youngest kid to win the York County Amateur. And then all of a sudden, I get a couple colleges that called me up. Oh, my God, I'm going to college.
Wow.
Well, that's interesting. So I committed to Coker College in South Carolina, Division II school, which was perfect for me. It was a small college. I wasn't ready to go D1. I was still finding my stride. I started to have some success. I won a big tournament. So I had a couple Division I schools.
So can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
So that tournament win, sorry, it just popped in my head. So that tournament win was after what, like a year, 12 months, 16 months playing golf?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Pretty much. I had a lot of help on the way. I had a lot of smart people. I like to think my dad developed my golf swing. He gave me a golf swing that was very fundamentally solid. I was a great driver of the golf ball. I was a great iron player. My dad was a little ahead of his time. He would give me, you know how you go out to the range and everyone's hitting 8 irons? Mm-hmm. Well, I'd be out there practicing. My dad would walk up to me and say, well, you've hit 2 hours of 8 irons. He goes, there's a chipping green over there. You might want to go hit some short shots. Oh, and by the way, last time we played from 100 yards, you couldn't hit the green. Well, that's not good. So he would, between his lessons, he would give me, structure. And with that structure, I made the most out of my practice. So with work ethic and structure, and then my dad had a good friend named Dave Stegman. Dave Stegman won the Haverford.
Okay.
And Steggy used to go out, and my dad would say, go play with Mark. And Dave was a very good thinker. He was a very strategic, a lot of stats. And, you got a 62% chance of hitting that green. So he taught me, so Dave would take me out and just taught me how to think. Hey, let's hit a low shot. Let's hit a high shot. Why would you go with that pin? Let's do this. The pin's in the back, So Dave started to teach me how to think. So it's not like everyone's like, wow, 1 year you became good. Well, I became good because I had good people around me.
How much of it do you think you absorbed before you started playing as well, just by being at the club?
I would say, I caddied. And when I caddied, my mom and dad, they'd always send me out with the better players. And so, you watched a lot of that, and you start understanding what better players do. Most of your better players don't wow me. They just did a lot of things good. They put the ball in play off the tee ball. They had relatively good distance. They had a good short game. They made putts. It started to make sense to me that you don't have to be overly special you just got to be good at a little bit of everything. And so it hit me that, my God, to play good golf, you don't have to be perfect.
Do you feel like golf's still played that way today?
Well, I tell you what, technology has made a difference. Training has made a difference. Tiger, his influence. I mean, the one thing I wish would be different is how stats were being kept when I was a junior. How many fairways did you hit? How many greens did you hit? How many putts did you hit? Was the standard way of keeping stats. Mm-hmm. Well, we all know today that's bogus. It's not about how many greens you hit. It's how close do you hit it.
Yeah.
If Michael and Drew and I are playing, and let's say Drew hits a shot to 10 feet, but he's on the fringe and he's got an uphill putt for birdie, and I hit a putt 60, and I got a 60-foot slider. Well, the old day of stats would be saying, well, Mark hit a better shot because I'm on the green, where Drew's proximity to the hole was a heck of a lot better than mine.
Yep.
So I think, decade golf with Scott Fawcett, the technology, the strength, the equipment, it's a different game, and you're able to track things a lot different. So when I teach my juniors, I'm a coach. I'm not a swing. I'm very good. I like to think I'm very good at building a good golf swing. But some of my top players like Sydney, I coached her, and it wasn't always about golf swing.
And I can follow up with that. I came to you in 2013, and I said, Mark, how do I get better at golf? Because I wasn't a good player. I could hit it, but I wasn't a good player. And we barely talked about my golf swing. It was all setup stuff. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go back and see him again. Okay, it's more setup stuff. Okay, let's go back again. And every time it was setup. And we never –
I still have those pictures. I still have those videos.
You never touched my golf swing. And it's like, wow, like, okay, I get what he's doing. Like, this makes a lot of sense. Like, and that's where I was like, I only trust this guy. Like, he's my guy because he's not trying to make me change. He's just trying to make me better. And I mean, it's so appreciative. I mean, I won, 4 Player of the Years working under you. I mean, that's awesome, So and I know you have a lot of success with a lot of students. So, you do it the right way for sure. And, I love what you're saying here.
And again, when you work with better players, you try to stay out of their way. And, the way the sports they played, the things they did, their flexibilities, all the stuff that they do. And you don't want to screw up their blueprint. Most times people come to me for lessons, their grip is bad, their ball position is bad, their setup's bad. First of all, you put them in a position where they can actually move. Okay, and you kind of see their strengths and weaknesses, and you build around that. But I've been very selective on who would touch my golf swing because a lot of people want to change it. And I'm like, God, I took we had a K-vest thing one time, and a guy came down, he put a K-vest on me, and he said, Mark, I can get you to hit the ball 20 yards further. Well, at 5'8", that's big news for a guy who's not the tallest. And he basically had me shanking the ball within 20 minutes.
Wow.
And it's the first time in my life I had to stop a lesson because I was physically in pain. You have to restrict your hips, and you got to create this mass. I looked at the guy, I said, Bud, it doesn't work for me. So I stopped it right away. I said, too many people want to make too many massive changes to put their spin on it. I always admire guys like Butch Harmon. Butch's rap is he never destroyed a player, but he made them better. He worked around their mold, their body style, their mentality, how much are they going to put into it, how much they're going to practice, what are they going to practice. And then from right there, you can build something pretty strong. And you get, a guy like who's now let me tell you something about Mike Little.
Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Mike and I played a lot of golf together, and Mike and I have been in a lot of final rounds. Mike, one thing I always admired about Mike is Mike would always play the best when he got himself in a hole. The one thing I admired about Mike Little, I know this podcast should be about me, but kudos to you. You made me a better player because watching Mike, we were playing at Bent Creek in the finals of the section championship, and Mike hits a hell of a golf ball, and I just got off to a little bit of a rough start, but every time I played with Mike and he would get into a rough start, he could always dig himself out of the hole, get himself motivated and play. And I always admired that stuff. And when I'm around that kind of stuff, that makes me play better.
I know exactly. You're talking about the 16th hole when I hit the ball out of bounds and potentially cost myself from qualifying for the national championship. and then it was a 300-yard hole over water, and I drove the green.
Yep.
Made birdie,
Yep.
and then birdied the last hole to
Yes,
get
you did.
in. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And by the way, I started that round really hot too.
Yep.
I started hot and ended hot, and in between was really bad. And you're right, I dug a pretty significant hole there.
But once again, you did what you had to do, and I've been blessed to be around good players like Michael, and when I got to play with guys like Mike, I became a better player.
Well, one of the things that you said to me that I feel was the most significant thing for me to become a better player was I qualified for U.S. Open sectionals in 2016, and we're 2.5, 3 years working together. And you said to me, Mike, you belong there. You earn the right to be there, so you belong there. And that's how you have to think, that you're in the field. Once you're in and you're playing, now go. You deserve it. So go and play your best. And I've always taken that with me, and that's always helped me with any golf tournament that I've ever been in. It actually helped me win the Philadelphia Open when I won the Philly Open, because I sat there and I said, you know what? I can beat the guy that I'm tied with right now.
Yes, you can.
I'm here. Yep. He was here too. He's done already. I still have an opportunity. Go get the opportunity. So thank you for that. That was like one of the defining moments in my playing career.
Do you know where I learned that from?
Where's that?
My third PGA championship. I was playing at Oak Hill, and one of my mentors is a guy by the name of Roy Pace. Roy and my dad are best friends. Roy played the tour for 12 years. I'm on the putting green, just hitting some putts, and Roy comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, Mark, I want you to stay right here. Somebody wants to come talk to you." Okay. So I'm standing right there, and Dave Stockton comes up to me. I'm like, "Mr. Stockton?"
Wow.
He's like, "You're Mark Sheftic, right?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." He said, "I want to see a putt." Here I am. I'm going to work with Dave Stockton, on the putting green of the PGA Championship. And Dave's spending 15, 20 minutes from me, with me. And, I mean, it was pretty awesome. And then all of a sudden, the gallery gets really big, and you hear the whispers. Here comes Rory. So so I call him Mr. Stockton. Mr. Stockton says, "Mark, here's what I want you to do. Rory's coming." At the time, he was working with Rory. He said, "I got to go over there." So all of a sudden, Dave Stockton gets this. He goes from the nicest guy in the world to this super serious face. I mean, I don't even understand. I don't even understand what was happening. The transformation was, and he comes up and he grabs me with both arms and pulls me in really tight, and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" He's like, now he looks at me. He's like, "No, do you belong here?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "I don't know." And he sort of shakes me. He goes, "Now, damn it, do you belong here?" And I said, "Yes." He shakes me one more time. He goes, "If you give me one more weak answer, leave and don't tee it up. If you feel like you don't belong here, get out."
Wow.
And he walks away, and I'm like, what just happened? But I understood the message that he was giving me, that the biggest difference I've seen through the years of playing and all the stuff I've played in, the players that feel like they belong are the ones that have success. The players that don't feel like they belong are the ones that are going to not make it. And talking to guys like Dave Stockton, and they're the ones that they said, "Mark, every tour player out here is so talented, but there's a group of guys out there that do not feel like they belong there. They're still wild, like there's Tiger, there's Rory, there's Phil, oh my God, and there's guys out there that are, I'm coming after you." And the guys that have that approach are the ones that are successful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Go on, Drew.
No, I just said, wow, I'm enamored. I mean, it's you've had a very successful career, and it's something that, from my perspective, you're not much older than I am, and you've had like I said, it's something that I look up to, and you've got some game, and everybody can learn something from you. Now, this is going to be the first for any of our podcast. I have to step out. I just got a call that somebody needs my emergency.
Okay. Everything okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I've got my wife is away, and so I need to go take care of some business. So, again, this is no disrespect to the podcast. No
Drew,
disrespect
I
to
love
you.
I love seeing you, bud.
We need to hang out more. I'm going to come down to Sunnybrook, and we can hang out.
Anytime you want.
To our listeners, I apologize. These guys are going to put on another good show for another 45, 50 minutes. So I bid you a best. I don't even know what to say. I'm a little shaken up. So
to go take care of the business you got to take care of.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
You got it.
You got it.
So let's go back to the college days.
Yep.
And just let's just resume from there. Sorry, just trying to wrap my head around all
Absolutely.
This. So,
So I played for Coker. It was a good wake up call for me because New Oxford is we had a stop sign. York County it's definitely not Philadelphia, and I had a pretty good high school career, and all of a sudden now I'm in college, and well, everyone thinks you're good, and there was 4 seniors, and one of my close friends through college, Robbie Bradshaw. Robbie was the best player on the team, and he kicked my butt pretty handily. And again, Robbie kind of took me under his wing, and we would spend nights in the dorm talking about strategy. And I would ask Robbie. Robbie was just very smart, very, very smart, very meticulous, good game plan. And I was still a little too fly by the seat of my pants. I thought I was very well disciplined, but I was still went after a lot of sucker pins, maybe tried to take too much risk. And Robbie was saying, hey, when you're out there playing, you're taking a ball striking of 68 round, and you're turning it into 77 because you put yourself here and you do this and you dump one in the water because you didn't take enough club. And so Robbie was one of the guys that started to teach me a little higher level thinking. And
even more than the LPGA gals that you were hanging with.
So I think at that stage, as I was developing, I was still developing my swing. My skills weren't fully honed. I started to play better. I learned so much from them, but my ball striking wasn't exactly where it was. My comfort level at the time was still about 74.
Okay.
So I really wasn't breaking par regularly. Now, everything they told me was astronomical, and it was a big part of my success. But
understood.
But I call it boring. I would rather spend Friday nights, looking at studying golf stuff than going to a party.
Love it.
That was just me. I wanted to get better. I had a career. I wanted to try to get to the PGA Tour, and drinking alcohol was not going to get it done for me. So Saturday and Sunday mornings, I was at the club.
Nice.
And my goal was I'm going to outwork you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good ethic. So how did that work out for you then, trying to get to the PGA Tour?
When I graduated college, I turned pro immediate, and I played the mini tours for 5 years.
Okay.
Hooters Tour, Teardrop Tour, Golden Bear Tour, Canadian Tour, Buy.com. So, we try Buy.com qualifiers and all over the map. And I was at
was it mainly like down south though, southern states?
Golden Bear was pretty much South Florida.
Okay.
Teardrop and Hooters, they followed the Buy.com.
Okay.
So it was all around the country. Canadian Tour, obviously up there. So just went. I was all over the place, and I forget. I was somewhere in North Carolina, and it was 5 o'clock at night. I'm traveling all by myself in an old beat up Pathfinder.
Nice.
And I'm on the first tee, and this Australian gentleman comes up to me, Brandon Chant. He goes, "Do you mind if I join you for 9 holes?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So after we get done playing, Brandon goes, "How'd you get here?" I said, "Well, I got a car." He looks over. He's like, "Who do you travel with?" I'm like, "It's me." "I noticed you have a Pathfinder." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, could you drive me back to the hotel with the other guys?" So I'm like, "Yeah, okay." I'm staying at the same hotel, so I drive him back. He goes, "I want you to come with me, and I want to introduce you to the guys." I'm like, "Okay, this is interesting." So we open the door up, and there's 5 Australians and 4 South Africans.
Wow.
And Brandon walks in and goes, "Hey guys, this is Mark. He's got a Pathfinder." And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, "Oh, come on in." And well, they had 2 cars and there was no room. So I became in the group.
Nice.
So I traveled with, 5 Australians, 4 South Africans, and 1 American. And it was absolutely the most incredible time. It was unbelievable. And it was a good safety net that I was with. They were good people. And they were good golfers. And again, every practice round we would play together and we would play for money. And you learn really quick how you better go out there and you better play some good golf.
Did they make good barbecue? That's what I hear. South Africans make great barbecue.
None of them really cooked. I'm
No?
going to be honest with you.
Okay.
They
All
want to
right.
go to the bar.
Okay.
But they were some fun times.
Nice.
And again, another step in for me developing into a better player, because you got the LPGA, then I had the college, then I had Damon, Chris, Brandon, Stefan, Gary. I mean, all the guys. And when we traveled together for about 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was a caravan, and it was looking at someone, hey, look how I did this yardage book, and hey, they were talking. It was just all golf related, and the amount of knowledge and the strategy was absolutely phenomenal.
So it's not like anything today then, where you can just find it all kind of online in a way, and right, like you had to figure it out on your own back then.
But
Is that how I'm taking it?
I tell you what, though, I wouldn't do it any other way, because you can look at something online, you can read a book, you can hear someone's theory, but when you actually live it firsthand, that's the way you learn.
Yeah.
And I in my humble opinion, you learn through failure. Go get your butt whipped.
Yep.
Go play in that go play in that, Nassau for $100, and you don't have the money to cover yourself.
So through all that experience, and if I'm jumping ahead a little bit here,
No.
I apologize, but through all that experience, like let's say like this coming week we have the Pennsylvania
Yep.
Open. Are you going to know exactly where you stand in that golf tournament because of all those different events and traveling with the guys and having all that experience? Or do you still have that feeling of, well, I think I have a good idea where I'm at?
And be more specific.
If you're playing, like say you're playing
Right.
well, right? Like let's say you go out round 1 and you shoot, let's say you shoot 68.
Yep.
Like, are you gonna walk off that golf course and say either I know I have the lead or I needed a couple more?
The only thing I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to get myself in position for the 3rd round.
Okay.
And
I get that.
right, yeah. I'd say, first of all, if you break par, you're doing good.
Yes.
And there's going to be some times where someone's going to go out there and just flat out light it up.
Okay.
I am not. The problem is, let's say someone goes out there and shoots a 65. Okay. What if he goes out tomorrow and shoots a 75? So if you know this better than anybody, you start getting ahead of yourself. You start pressing. If I went out and shot a 67 or a 68 or hell, even a 69, I'm staying with that game plan. The more you try to force birdies, the more bogeys you make.
And I think more of what I'm trying to ask is, like, do you always have the sense of where you stand in the golf tournament?
I know if
from that experience.
I know if I'm in contention.
Okay.
I do. I guarantee you do too. If I'm playing well, when I'm playing the kind of golf I'm capable of playing, I'm gonna be in contention.
There's only one time I got it wrong. That's actually this year, but there's only one time I've ever got that wrong. But yeah, I feel now I don't have nearly the amount of experience that you have. I've never done a mini tour in my life. My tour is the Philly PGA and a little bit of the PAT tour. But it's sometimes it's hard to figure it out, and it's like, man, like, is the golf course playing that hard or is it just me today? Like it's more when I'm playing bad, I feel more of that than if I'm playing good. But I'm always curious to know how other people feel about that. And, like when you and I, like you said, we played in a lot of events together. We played in a lot of 2nd or 3rd rounds together. And like, I can remember a couple tournaments where we were paired together and you ended up winning the golf tournament. And I always noticed there was a sense of calmness over you you know, even if you made a mistake, you were still very calm. Like, I know where I'm at. I know what I need to do. And this isn't hard. Like, it seemed almost like very easy to you. And I'm wondering how much of that experience from those days of, you know, being with the LPGA, being with all these people that have walked, you know, helped you through this journey, you know, is it that, or is there something else that you had to do to get to that point?
I think that's a good question. I would say what's the analogy? The duck looks calm on the water, but the feet are swimming fast.
Got it.
I think just my mom and dad sent me to about 5 different sports psychologists.
Okay.
I thought they thought I was crazy. I kept asking you, why are you sending me to all these people? I've been hypnotized. I've been acupuncture. I've been all you know, Deborah Graham, Pia Nilsson, Lynn Marriott, Dr. B. Shepherd. It was amazing. They all kind of had a similar message, and it was very unique on how they said it very different.
Okay.
And I guess the things that, you know, I learned was I became a better player when I found a balance. I was a worse player when I didn't have a balance. It was golf. I was my golf score. And when I was my golf score, well, you can figure it out. When I played well and when I played bad, you can figure out my personality. Deborah and Lynn and all them, they would teach me that, Mark, it's just a golf score.
Yeah.
And if you play golf, you're playing probably the hardest game, and the biggest obstacle you're going to have is you.
Yeah.
And I think as I became more balanced, you know, the hardest thing that they told me, he said, Mark, you know, quit practicing. You need to take a week off and practice. Just stop practicing for a week. I mean, I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. They're
Interesting.
like, they're saying you practice way too much. You know, go get a date. Go meet some friends outside of golf. Go get a hobby. Get your mind off it. And then when I started to see a balance of, you know, other things, you know, things started to make more sense. And when things started to make more sense, okay, I've been in this position before. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then you learn how to close around. Look, winning's hard. And no matter how calm you look, you know, internally you're grinding.
Yeah.
You know that feel.
I mean, do you relate that to pressure?
I like what Tiger Woods said. Pressure's a privilege. And that's one thing I would write in my yardage book. If I'm going in the last round, I would literally write that in my yardage book. Pressure's a privilege. Okay, so I've earned the right to have pressure.
Yeah.
So that would always help me say, okay, if I'm nervous, that means I'm playing really well.
Yep.
So let's take a negative and turn it into a positive versus, you know, what do I do in this moment? So I remember that saying from Tiger, pressure's a privilege, and I write, you know, that's things I like to think about.
That's what keeps me going back to every golf tournament, is trying to get back to the pressure. There's not a better feeling, in my opinion, in the world than knowing, oh my goodness, I have to pull this golf shot off. I mean, for me, it's a huge adrenaline rush. I absolutely love it. I always know if it's a 9-iron hit pitching wedge when I feel that.
Yep.
Always, every single time. But like the first time it happened to me, I had no idea. No clue. You know, I'd be flying greens and I could never figure out why. I'm like, Jesus, like why
Adrenaline.
is this ball, why is it going so far? First time it actually happened to me was in 2011, actually, and it was at the Springhaven Club in U.S. Open local qualifying. The marshal came up to me on the 18th tee box and he goes, "You're leading this golf tournament." And I'm like very fresh. You know, this is before I even met you. I'm very fresh. And I remember the 18th hole at Springhaven, I almost drove the green. I had no idea where it came from. And then I flew the green and made double bogey, went into a playoff and didn't get into sectionals. Right. And it was just like, what the heck just happened? And now that like I have more experience of being in those situations, I know exactly what happened. It was that pressure. But I remember like that I couldn't concentrate at all. Like I had no idea what to do. It was just the craziest thing in the world. Like it was just, I forgot how to move the golf club. You know, it was just like, just go.
But think about how good of a learning curve was, you know, think about how good of a learning curve that was for you.
Yeah.
The fact that you got yourself in that situation and now how you're more prepared to handle that situation. And, oh, I love being in that situation. You're going to find out really quick if you're a competitive golfer or a social golfer.
Yeah.
really quick.
Yeah.
And the fact that, much like you, we thrive on those nerves. You know, that's man, that's like that strong cup of coffee in the morning that just keeps you going. And, you know, looking forward to getting that situation is what separates the guys that win and the guys that don't win.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I get anxiety of like the last 2 years, I didn't have my best stuff playing golf. I also had a ton of things going on in my life, but I didn't have my best stuff. And honestly, like, I started getting anxiety of being like, am I ever going to feel that again?
Yep.
And like, am I going to have to go and become an AM and go play in club championships somewhere and try to join a club and go play in a club championship to get that feeling back again? You know, it was a really weird time for me, at least. So, you know, if we ever get that way, we just got to start doing like $1,000 matches just to try to get the juices going.
Exactly. but again, you look at, you look what Jordan Spieth went through. Look what every player. I mean, people have to understand when you're playing golf, it has much more to do than just a golf swing. It's what's going on in your personal life. It's what's going on with your marriage. It's what's going on with your kids. It's going on with your friends. All that stuff affects the mindset.
Yeah.
And I know a good friend of mine who had a lot of negativity happening in his life, and he was playing phenomenal. And I said, why do you play? I mean, what do you think you're doing so well out there? He said, Mark, it's the only peace I can find right now. When I'm out there playing, I feel like I'm on vacation.
Wow.
I was like, wow.
Wow.
You know,
I think I know who you're talking about.
So,
wow.
So, and I'm like, God, that kind of makes sense. And I remember when I was the director of instruction at Marion, Scott and I, who was one of my mentors, said to me one time, he said, Mark, man, you're really playing some good golf. And he goes, why do you think that is? I said, yeah, because I feel comfortable. I feel balanced. I feel, I'm in a good spot. I'm in a good spot in my life. And I said to Scott, I said, all the work I've put into this is where it should lead me to. And, I think it's go out there and just get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you decide that you wanted to no longer do the mini tour stuff and
that's a bad story.
Start teaching or become a PGA pro? What was that experience like?
I pretty much quit playing because I got disqualified from a tournament.
Really?
If you want to know the truth.
Yeah, really? Wow.
So my fifth year being out there, I was sponsored by a company. And did you ever have that? Well, in the Golden Bear Tour many years ago, there was I think there was 3 tournaments that we would call majors. That most tournaments were 3-day events,
okay,
but there were 3 tournaments that were 4-day events.
Okay.
And the third tournament, we played Jonathan's Landing at Old Trail, the Fazio course. We played Loxahatchee.
Okay.
1 round at Locks, 1 round at the Fazio, make the cut. Last 2 rounds were at Fazio. I went into that tournament. I was playing really good. I went into that tournament, and that's probably the hardest prepped I've ever did. And I did it right. Walked the golf course backward, knew where the pins were going to be. I knew, kind of call it a cheap version of decade golf.
Okay.
I planned it out as good as I could. I was striking the ball well. I could see the lines. The putts were falling. And I was in the second to the last group. Matt Kuchar played in that tournament, just out of Georgia Tech. And Bryce Mulder. There was a bunch of young studs. And the fourth.
So what was this, like 99? 2000?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So the last round, I shoot 64.
Nice.
I start off the round 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3.
Jesus.
6 straight threes.
Wow.
I finish playing, and I'm thinking to myself, I got a chance to win this. That gives me enough money to make the tour championship. That gets me my money. I am now over, so I can now pay my sponsor. So now I can go to my sponsor and say, I made your money back. Now we can split it on our contract.
Yep.
I was more excited that I was able to make his money back. So I get to the scores tent. I look down at the card, 32, 32, 64. Hand the card in, walk out of the scores tent. I get my little flip phone out. I was calling Dennis. Oops. Mr. Sheftic, we need to get you back in the scores tent.
Oh, no.
And I said, oh, okay. So I get up there. We have you for 63. I said, no, I shot 64. Well, we have you for 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. We have you for 7 straight threes.
Oh, boy.
I got disqualified.
Wow.
I did everything the best I've ever did it from a prep standpoint. The prep of the golf swing, the practice, the chipping, the putting, the golf course, I got disqualified.
Wow.
And Michael, I remember it. I didn't touch a club for a month. So I went from the highest of highs to what for 1 month, I literally couldn't look at myself in the mirror, and I just didn't want to touch a club. So I called Dennis up, and I said, Dennis, I'm done. I can't do this. I said, it had that big of an impact on me. So I called Scott and I up, and I said, hey, Scott, what's going on in the Philadelphia section? Is there any openings? I want to get out. I need to take a break from golf because I really had a hard time recovering from this because I didn't make the tour championship, because I didn't play well in the next couple events. That sent a spiral for like a two to 3 month, and I literally couldn't practice. I couldn't eat. So people have no idea when you play tournament golf, when you do that much prep work, and because I didn't take the diligence of checking my scorecard because I was so excited, and one number in the wrong spot, I made 0. All that work was wasted.
You know, I can't relate to that level, but that happened to me in my first National Club Pro in Sun River, Oregon.
Yep. I was there.
You were there. So I can't, I'm not going to say I understand what you went through because it's a totally different situation, but I can relate on a small level there. And yeah, that I can understand. I can understand why you made that decision. I mean, geez, like you've dedicated your entire life to it. And first of all, I'm going to go on the record and say I think it's a dumb rule.
It is the dumbest rule in the history of mankind. I'm sorry.
It's a dumb rule.
Yeah.
But it's the rules, and we all know it. And sometimes when we make mistakes like that, like you said, you were excited, right? I was just fresh as could be when I made that same exact mistake. You'll never make it again.
I birdied the 18th hole. I didn't know if that was going to win the tournament. I was on cloud 9. I had emotions. I was so proud of myself. And I literally saw 32-32. That's all I saw. 64.
Wow.
And I literally went in there, signed it. I didn't even tear the bottom of the scorecard off. I just signed it, handed it in, and then I got once you sign the card and you walk out of the scoring area, it's official. Yep. And for people that don't know anything about golf, you're only responsible for hole by hole.
Yep.
So you can sign for a wrong score, but you cannot sign for a wrong hole. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. So I saw 32, 32, 64, and I needed to get out of it. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just tough. When it happened to me, I was the only person on the planet that knew. Little different there. I knew that if I would have continued to play that golf tournament, I would never play golf again in my life. And what I mean by that is I would have never played good golf again in my life because it would have been resting on me forever. But, man,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm learning a lot about you tonight, Mark. And I feel like I knew a lot about you. And now I'm like, you know what? I don't really know a lot about Mark Sheftic. Like this has been very enjoyable and very knowledgeable, and I really appreciate this conversation that we're having here. So,
Vice versa.
yeah, thank you. So you mentioned you called Scott Nye. Now,
Yep.
Did you know him beforehand? Did you work for him? Is that
So
how that worked?
So when I was a junior in high school,
Okay.
I walk in the Hanover Country Club. My dad walks up to me and goes, "You're fired." I said, "Okay, that's interesting. You need to report down to Country Club of York in about 2 hours. You're starting your new job." I said, "What?" So he said, "Go now." So I'm okay. So I get in my car. I go down there. There's Scott Nye. Scott Nye was at 28, he got the head pro job at Country Club of York. I
Okay.
worked at Baltimore, worked with Dennis Satishore, a good network of guys. And I pull in. Scott greets me. Okay, you're mine. And I worked for Scott for 7 years at Country Club of York, all through high school, all through college.
Oh, nice.
And Scott knew. So the cool thing was when Scott came in the area, when he came in, when he got the job at Country Club of York, my dad was one of the first guys to reach out to Scott. Hey, Scott, my name's Ted Sheftic. Welcome to the area. I'm the head pro at Hanover Country Club. You need anything, you call me. I'll anything I can do for you, let me know. So Scott and my dad got into a very good relationship early.
Okay.
And little did I know, my dad said, I can only teach Mark so much. He needs to start working for other people. And then through Scott, Scott was amazing. He still is. I mean, Scott just transferred, talk about polishing, a diamond in the rough. Scott was, Mark, you cannot show up those, they're wrinkled. What are you doing? Let's go in there, get the steamer, and oh my God, you got red socks on. That doesn't go with the belt. That is not the look we have here. You need to let's get the. I mean, it was every little blemish.
That's great.
And at first it was a pain in the what, but I knew what he was grooming me for, and I remember watching Scott work, watching my dad work, and Scott promoted us to play. Scott was a big advocate of, if you're going to work under me, you're going to play with the members. And when you play with the members, you're going to, I want you to play well.
Yeah.
So get down there and practice.
Yep.
So if you're not on and look, I did every crap job in golf. I caddied, slung balls in the mud. We didn't have range pickers. So
Wait, hold on. Did you wear like the bucket with the
I wouldn't go
the hockey face and all that?
No.
Okay.
I know I'm old school, but no, I wasn't there yet.
Okay, all right.
But Scooter would he really took me under his wing. So after that happened, I called Scott up. I said, Scott, I need to take a break from tournament golf. And you know what? Something I started to learn about myself. I don't know. I really, a lot of the guys started to come to me for advice. Hey, Mark, what's wrong with my swing? And I actually enjoyed it. Here I am trying to beat these guys, yet I'm trying to help them.
Yep.
And I really, really started to enjoy it. And then when I called Scott up, when I finished up, I called Scott up. I said, Scott, is there anything in the Philadelphia area? I want to take a break from tournament golf. I'm tired of traveling around. I'm burned out, whatever reasons. He said, well, there's a job opening at Sunnybrook. So Scott made a phone call. He called John Allen up. John Allen called me up. And next thing you know, John goes, just send me anything. I'm like, all I have is a playing resume, and I've taught quite a bit. He's like, just send me something. So I send the resume up to John. Scott recommended me. You're hired.
Nice.
Done.
Nice.
And then 5 years later, Scott calls me up. He said, Mark, we want you to be the director of instruction at Marion.
Nice.
So I was at Marion, the director of instruction at Marion for 13 years. And it was just amazing. The members, the interesting thing about Marion is a lot of people would say, well, you want to go to Marion? It's a little snooty there. That place was amazing. The membership is amazing. There are so many good people there. It was phenomenal.
Anytime I went there to see you, I've had opportunities to play, but it was like always late in the afternoon or something like that. So I didn't get like the full experience. But whenever I'd be there to come see you to get a lesson, I mean, everyone seemed to be phenomenal. It was always, hey, how are you? They'd introduce themselves.
Yep.
What's your story? It was always something like that, which I thought was a really positive culture at the club. But you're right. I mean, I do hear that from time to time about it, and I'm like, I don't get that vibe. To me, that's one of my favorite places to go to play golf. The golf course is just Marion and Rolling Green. They're my two favorite.
Two great ones.
Two favorite. I know everyone will argue that with me with some other courses, but it's and both of them have completely different experiences when you're there too, which is even better. But both golf courses demand you to hit every single club in your bag, which is absolutely awesome. And when I go there, I focus more on the golf. when I'm there. But I've never had a bad experience. And I've had bring up Scott and I had a great experience with Scott and I there. I was fortunate enough to be able to bring out my father and my brother to play golf there with one of the members. And Scott came over and sat down, had breakfast with us, showed us around the clubhouse, showed us the trophy room. I mean, it was amazing, and I'm like, Scott, why are you doing this? I'm a golf pro. Like, it's okay.
That's
like,
why he's doing it.
And it's like, and the experience was absolutely amazing. And then I played there another time with a golf pro, actually off hours, and he had lunch with us again upstairs, and in the men's grill, and it's always been a good experience there. So I agree with what you're saying. Obviously, it didn't work there, but as an outsider looking in, it's phenomenal.
It was the members made it great. Scott, and just give you my humble opinion, a little biased because he was one of my mentors, but my dad and Scott, I am, and no, I'm sorry, let me say this right. My mom comes first because she was my number one. My mom did so much for me. She's one of the biggest influences on a lot of stuff. But my mom, my dad, and Scott are the reasons why are three big reasons why I'm successful.
That's great.
I always say I'm the success of some smart people. And just been blessed and fortunate to have good people, a good team that really got me going in a good direction.
Hard work and understanding what it takes is a lot of it too. So give yourself a pat on the back as well, Mark. So when did you realize then I know you said pros were coming to you to get advice from you, but when did you realize you wanted to be an instructor? How much influence did your father have on that as an instructor? And was there any other instructors that helped influence you there as well?
Obviously, my influence is my dad. The one thing I admired about my dad is he got results. I never saw a person more eager to learn. I wish I would have invested in PVC pipe when my dad was in his prime because, I'll give you an example. There was an LPGA girl at her house. I don't like to say the names of them, but they were having a lesson. And his point to her was just not getting across. 2:00 in the morning, we hear this banging, this sawing, the drills are going. We're like, what the hell's going on? And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, he goes in, bangs on her door. He goes, get up, we're going to the range. I figured it out. Wow. And I'm like, what? He woke up the whole house. He said, we're going. So she gets up, and she's like, Ted, it's 6 o'clock. He said, no, we're going to the range. Couldn't sleep. Physically couldn't sleep. And he built multiple training aids, and he kind of figured out what he needed to do from a feel standpoint to get it done. He physically couldn't sleep.
Wow.
And it was a home run. And whatever they did, she came back. She's like, it worked. I couldn't. And I saw that type of passion. And I think in our world, and Mike's, you do a lot of teaching. It's not about the financial end. It's more about a relationship. It's about an experience. It's about a friendship. It's about going on a journey with somebody.
Yep.
When I give a lesson to somebody and I know that person's going to be committed, I'm on that journey with you.
Yeah.
And there's going to be hard times. There's going to be, easy times. There's going to be tears. There's going to be frustration. But that's what I'll do. I'll go on that journey with you. And that journey, we're going to go through those peaks and valleys together because it's a hard damn game. And watching my dad and what he did and how he did it. Now, he was in Podunk, Hanover.
Yeah.
Okay. And he is probably the most successful teacher Pennsylvania will ever see. Off his resume, what he has done, he rejuvenated careers. He built top of the juniors. There's no one in Pennsylvania that probably will ever remotely do what he's done.
Wow.
Especially in Hanover.
Yeah.
you know. And I don't mean that being disrespectful. There's a lot of good teachers in our area, but what he was able to do, he wasn't a cheerleader. He was a coach. And call him a little bit of a Bobby Knight. He was, you know, he had to be mean. He had to, whatever it took to get done. And watching that, I really got fascinated. And then Roy Pace, my dad's best friend, you know, watching Roy teach. Roy would, you know, at our golf schools, the Pace Sheftic golf schools, there was Ted would yell at you and Roy would comfort you, was always the joke. They were partners.
Nice.
And then Dr. Rob Neal got me into biofeedback technology. And then when I was down in Florida, I would call teachers up and I would say, hey, can I put a chair and I want to watch you teach? I spent some time with Mike Adams. I spent some time with Martin Hall. I spent a lot of time with really good teachers, and I wanted to see how they interacted with a senior, with a junior, with a high handicap. And I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And maybe I'm a little too much of a people pleaser. Yeah. You know, that's probably why I'm good in the service industry. You know, I really, really get a thrill out of watching people play better.
It's like you said, it's about the results, right? I mean, you can't argue what you're saying about your father, you know, when the results are there.
I mean, the things that he was able to do with people have no idea how he was able to figure it out. You know, and it was, you know, he was number one in Pennsylvania for over 20 years. He's just, like, you know what, and all that stuff, it's great, but what really matters, it's not about an award, it's not about a ranking, it's not about any of that. It's about, my God, that you know, you're in the trenches, you have a certain level of excitement at 6 o'clock in the morning, and now you're at your 6 o'clock p.m. lesson, and you have that same level of excitement.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you do that? And that's what I, you know, thrive on. That when I give a lesson to somebody, I want to have that same energy.
Do you feel like the level of player can allow that excitement to vary?
So I asked my dad a question. This was a game changer for me.
Okay.
I said to my dad, I said, what was the best work you ever did? It was, I don't know how the conversation came about. We were out there on the deck, you know, probably having a steak or whatever. And I said, hey, Dad, what's the best work you ever did? Was it Jenny Shashir-Porn? Jenny, you know, lost to Sari Pack in the U.S. Open in a playoff. He developed her. Was it Nancy Bowen when she won the Dinah Shore? Was it Caroline when she won the Big Apple Classic? And go on and on. He's like, you know what, Mark? I taught this kid. He had no athletic talent. Maybe a shred of athletic ability. Kid had work ethic. I worked that kid so hard, I got him a Division III scholarship.
Wow.
That's the best teaching I've ever did. And then he finally hit me. He said, do you think just because you teach a tour player makes you good? He said, take a 20 handicap and turn him into a single digit. That's teaching. So I gave Darren Clark a lesson last year. You know, I could have easily put over my social media, I'm Darren Clark's coach. No, I'm not. He came to me he needed help. And basically, guess what? His posture was bad. I got him to stand a little taller, maybe a couple simple things. But, you know, here's a guy that's already won the British Open.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm just trying to help him get a little more consistent. But when I get like a Cindy Yermish, when I taught Cindy, she was beginning.
Yep.
And now we're all the way to where we are now. Where, you know, now she's got a full ride to Michigan State.
So I want to ask you about that. How much, or did you have to change your instruction at all? Because when you first started working with her, she couldn't have been more than, what, 4 feet tall?
Sid was 7.5, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a tiny little thing.
Now she's what, 5'6"?
She could probably kick the crap out of me. I mean, Sid's a beast. I mean, she's strong. She's tall.
So what did you do? Is there anything that stands out to you had to do to?
Sid made me a better teacher.
Okay.
Okay, because Sid's probably one of the first persons that turned me into a coach. So I did something. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. And Dana and Bob, I love you to death, but don't get mad at me. The first 6 months I worked with Sydney, it was brutal. It was brutal. She didn't want to be there. And it was one of those where like, oh, God, I got another junior coming in that wants nothing to do with golf. And then one day I sat down with Sid and I said to her, and she was a really young girl. I said, Sid, do me a favor. If you're not into it, don't do it. I don't want to take your parents' money if this is a waste of time.
Yeah.
I said, if you want to do it, I'm going to need, rolling of the eyes, shrugging of the shoulders. I ask you to do something 5 times in a row. You don't do it. I'm like, this is not fun for me, and I know you don't want to be here. So if you want to be here, be here. Again, I don't want to take someone's money if I'm not helping them out.
Yep.
Because you know how it is, Michael. When you give a lesson, that person represents you.
Yeah.
So I took 2 years of lessons with Mark Sheftic, and she got worse. Well, it's not always the teacher's fault. Maybe the student didn't put anything into it.
Yep.
So I had a chat with Sid, and I said, hey, you know what? If you're going to be here, be here. And I started to understand that quit talking about the damn golf swing. She needs to have fun.
Yeah.
So I went out there with a baseball mitt to 30 yards. I said, Sid, how many shots can I catch in a row? She kind of looks like I'm crazy. I'm like, I'm standing right here at Marion in front of the training center with a baseball mitt. I was like, I want to see how many shots I can catch. And she started to hit shots to me, and I'm like, come on, I'm over here. And we started to turn it into fun. And that started to change my philosophy. How am I going to capture this junior? Am I going to keep beating her? Well, you're taking the club 2 inside. You got to get it here, and this position has to be here. I'm like, that doesn't excite her.
Yeah.
That bores her. But what if I stand out there with a baseball mitt saying, hey, I bet you $10, and I did this. I took $10 out. I said, I bet you $10. I'll give you 10 shots. I bet you can't hit 3 where I have to move and catch it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, she's like, okay. And then we started to do games. Okay. And then you kind of figured out, okay, now I'm going to slip in. Hey, when we did that game, you know how that thing was, you were taking a little inside and you weren't making a big divot. Hey, let's do that same game, but let's get it a little steeper.
Yep.
And then I said to Bob and Dana, I want to work with Sydney every day for a month. Every day for a month. And I'm going to give you a special price because I want to test the theory. And it could be a half an hour. It could be 40 minutes. No more than an hour. And every day we did a different activity. We're going to go do speed training. I'm going to put lines out. Everything was a game. And, oh, by the way, hey, from a technical aspect, I think you could do this one thing a little better.
Yep.
So we started to do a lot of things like that. Then instead of me being a swing coach or a swing instructor, which was totally boring her, we started to play games. And then when the opportunity was there, then we added a little nugget of, hey, let's get that grip a little more there. If we do that with the grip, the ball doesn't hook. Your rate of closure can't go as much. So remember that ball was hooking? So let's do that and just move that grip this way. So you figure out when to introduce a little nugget. So she's having fun. And you've seen me do clinics. I'm the biggest kid there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm going to hurt myself.
So when you did that with her, what were the results after that 1 month? Did you see a significant gain?
I saw.
And did it show up in her scores?
Well, we weren't
No,
there with scores yet. We weren't there with scores yet.
Got it. Okay.
So
this is early then.
This is early. So
Got it.
we're starting to do games, and then there was one lesson, and Michael, I don't know what happened, but she hit this golf shot. Can I swear?
You can do whatever you want.
I said, "Holy shit!" I said, "What?" I mean, it made a sound of compression, and it flighted, and it was, and my eyes I'm like, what was that? Like you, I know what a golf shot is.
Yeah.
And it was so pure. And all of a sudden, I just stopped, and I went and grabbed her. I'm like, Sid, that actually impressed me. And Sid kind of looked at me. I'm like, no. I said, that actually impressed me. What you just did, people can't do.
Yeah.
And I said, we got it. We got to do this.
Yeah.
So I got excited. And then she started to hit these golf shots so I started to take her to the West Course. So we did a lot of that. And then I said, hey, let's let's go get her in a couple tournaments. She won 15 tournaments. Then the next year, she won 12 tournaments. And then I said to Dana, start taking her to the Hurricane Tour, start Peggy Kirk Bell Tour. And she just developed. And the relationship that I got, that we had fun.
Yeah.
And and Michael, so Sydney made me learn how to think outside the box. She taught me how to be a better coach, is what she did for me. Everyone says what you did for her. She did more for me than she knows what she did, because I'm thinking, I'm going to be with this girl every day. How do I had to start becoming a coach.
Yeah.
Not hey, position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Sorry for the long-winded story. But.
No, you're fine. I mean, I remember because I worked at Rolling Green, and that's where she would spend time on the range. I remember spending time on the range as a little kid. It's whatever age it was. I think she was 5 or 6, and then when I saw her again, 10 years later, right, 11 years later, and watch her hit a golf ball, I'm like, my goodness, like. And like you said, people are coming up to you going, Mark, like, great work, right? Like, and it is, and it's great work by you. But
great
it was
work
just,
by us.
But it was incredible to see, like you were like, guess who's coming today? And I was excited to see it because I heard all the stories, but I never saw it in person. And I mean, I think I even said it to her that day. I was like, man, if I go in and play golf with her, she's going to kick my butt. Like that is incredible to see. Like, just kudos to you on what you did there, and like you said, how you guys did that together. And
it was. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 50% of it. The other 50% was her work ethic, was her parents. Bob and Dana, and I can't. I coached her. Proud of that, but she put the work in.
Yeah.
As a coach, you can only do so much. She put the work in, and we fought. We argued, we yelled, we cried, we did a lot of things, and it was an amazing experience.
I was going to ask you like what your coaching philosophy was and things like that, but I'm pretty sure that just summed it all up right there. I mean, I don't think, unless there's something you want to add to it, but I mean,
so first thing I always try to do when I teach is I want to know what their expectations are. How I'm sure you've heard this a million times. What do you want out of this?
Yep.
How much are you going to put in it? How much are you willing to put into it? And then when someone, one of the greatest things I witnessed firsthand. I was working with this young lady, fantastic person, Jackie Calamaro, and she played for Illinois. And I would always bring up Dr. Rob Neal. Probably just Dr. Rob Neal, in my opinion, is one of the most amazing individuals ever to teach golf. He's a Hall of Famer in my book. He taught me more than anything. So I would bring Doc up, and he would work with some of my best players. I think part of my strengths is me knowing that I don't know it all, and I'm not afraid to admit that.
Understood.
And I always think I would bring Doc up, and I would have him work with a different caliber of my students, because it takes a village to run a family.
Yeah.
Not one coach makes one player successful.
Mm-hmm.
It's if I have, as an example, I have a girl that I'm working with who has a lot of talent, and I told her, go get a putting fit from Michael Little. He's better at it than I am. I'm going to build you a team that this person is better at this than I am. Go see him. To me, that's smart.
Yeah.
You surround yourself with the right team. So I watched Doc work with Jackie. And he goes to Jackie, I want you to make, and what do you want? I want to try to make the LPGA. So as soon as she tells that to Doc, all of a sudden Doc's now serious. When you tell somebody my goal is to make the LPGA or the PGA, it's okay. Now it's serious time. This is not social golf. I want you to give me your 10 hardest driver swings right now. Don't worry if you duck hook them. Don't worry if you slice them. Give me the 10 hardest driver swings you can make. And she went after them. Her highest club head speed was 89 miles an hour. Doc says, okay, here's the deal. If you can't get your club head speed to 94 miles an hour, don't even try.
Wow.
And I looked at him, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're trying to help this girl out. We're trying to build confidence. Doc goes like this. He goes, you can't give up 30 yards unless you're ultra special, putting, chipping, wedges. But if you go out there and you give up 30 yards to the best player in the world, don't even try. And oh, by the way, this is the work regimen you're going to need. So his wife, Karen, is a body specialist. So they do assess her body, do all the screening on what she can and can't do, came up with this whole plan of what she's going to do, how much sacrifice she's going to have to do the next 2 summers.
Wow.
This is the plan of action that you're going to need to take if you want to try to make it.
Wow.
Jackie left crying. I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. I thought I lost her as a student. And I'm thinking I made the biggest mistake in my life. And I even said to Doc, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what are you doing? He's like, Mark, she told me she wanted to make the LPGA. We got to be honest with her. But, we're trying to build confidence. He's like, no. She needs to know the reality.
Yeah.
Jackie calls me up finally. She goes, I woke up and I just felt like the biggest load of bricks just lifted off my shoulders. Thank you. And I said, thank you for what? You were the first person, or Doc was not me. Doc was the first person to really give me a taste of reality. I'm not willing to do this. I want to get married. I have a bunch of weddings I want to go to. I want to travel. If it's going to require this amount of work for me to make the LPGA, and then there's no guarantees, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And she goes, thank you. And I'm like, you're telling me that you're giving up? She's like, no, I can be a good amateur player. I had a good college career, but I don't want to do this much work.
Wow.
When I saw that, and I said, oh my God, he actually helped her.
Yeah. Saved her.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it that way, but yeah. And again, everything Doc told her, is it actually 100% accurate? I don't know. But you're going up against, you're trying to get a spot for less than 1% of the world. Your highest club head speed is 89 mile an hour. And, oh, by the way, 94 at the time was the average. Okay, so now you're playing with the best of the best. Your college career was average. This is the work that's going to be required if we even want a chance.
Yeah.
So he might have saved her 2 years of her life. And now I haven't talked to her in a long time, but, I couldn't believe she said thank you. And she said, thank you for being honest with me. And that's another thing that changed my philosophy, saying to myself, if you're going to work with these juniors that want to go to Division I don't care what. You got to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
So they get a little taste of reality.
Yeah. No, I mean, because if not, they're going to learn it the hard way, like you're saying, and it's saving 2 years. Going to go out there, and then the tour is going to teach you that. And who knows how much money you're going to spend in that time period. I mean, that's not cheap.
No.
It's not cheap at all. So, wow, that's a good story. That really that really hits home. It really puts everything into perspective on the reality of our responsibility as golf instructors, as coaches, as PGA professionals to be honest with people. And I think that the golf business as a whole sometimes makes us sugarcoat things, and we sometimes have to hide a little bit of our feelings, because we work for these people.
Yep.
And if we hurt their feelings, that potentially could cost us our job down the road. And I think that, fortunately for me, I'm not at a club anymore, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. I get to pick and choose who I work with now, which is great. But
you've earned that too.
But you're able to have that conversation, and I don't know how you are at, Sunnybrook or at the Performance Center, but I mean, it seems like to me that it's okay. Hey, you want me to work with you? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do, which, man, there's no better way of learning than through that style. So awesome.
And you want hopefully at the right personality. You don't click with everybody.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are going to lie to you, that are not going to put the work in, and they're going to go take a lesson from this person. Yeah, it's and you know what, Mike? As I get a little older, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to give you my best, and it's a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no magic recipe in hitting a golf ball better. You need good instruction. You need a balance. You need to use technology. There's a lot of ways to get it done, but again, at the end of the day, if the student isn't going to put the work in, if the student isn't going to be willing to make a change because it's uncomfortable, well, if you come to me for a lesson and you don't like what you're doing, you want it to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I agree with that. Well, we went a little longer than I expected us to here.
I knew this was going to be one of those conversations that, what time is it? I don't even realize what time it is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're going a little. Well, not, I wouldn't say we're long, but we're running out of time here. So there's other things I wanted to discuss with you, but I think it's important to just let the audience know where they can find you. You know, if you're accepting students, you know, what the Performance Center is all about. If we can talk about that a little bit here, and then we'll just kind of wrap this whole thing up.
So I am the director of instruction at Sunnybrook. That is my job, and very fortunate. Sunnybrook is a great private golf club. We have great leadership. Billy Garbase is the general manager, best general manager I've ever. Just phenomenal person. Loves the place. Great membership. Greg Wingate is the head pro. I'm the director of instruction. Brad, Robbie, Kyle. You know, really good assistants. So we got a really good team right there. I'm a little selective at Sunnybrook. Members come first. Yep. But much like you, Mike and I have something in common. We're somewhat entrepreneurs. Well, Mike a little more than I am. When we hit COVID, I was not allowed to teach non-members at Marion. So I needed to find somewhere to teach. And I built a little makeshift simulator in this building, and now I transformed it into the Sheftic Performance Center. It's a training ground for serious golfers. It's a little boutique type of thing. It's not massive. I don't want it to be massive. It's private. It's exclusive. Much like you, when people come there, I give them an interview to make sure they're the right fit. And fully loaded with technology. Give a lot of lessons there. We're there to work. We're there to get work done. My membership is there to, I'm repeating myself, there to get work done. Take a lot of pride. Kudos is to you, Michael, with Clubhouse 54. I took a putting lesson from Michael last night. It was absolutely eye-opening. He's now my putting instructor.
Thanks, Mark.
And I'm not being, I mean, Michael gave me a putting lesson and pretty much told a story of everything I'm going through without me saying much. And I said, oh, my God, he is spot on with what he's telling me. So, you know, I look out at Clubhouse 54, great leadership, you know, what Michael built, Sheftic Performance Center, my wife, myself, you know, we pretty much run it. We do, my wife's got 25 years of teaching experience, so she's doing some tutoring there, interactive with kids. We have golf simulators, a lot of instruction. A lot of instruction happens there. So we have the Sheftic Performance Center, ShefticPerformanceCenter.com.
Where would we be without our wives? That's what I want to know.
Oh, God. We'd be lost. Totally lost.
What type of technology do you use at the Performance Center? How many bays do you have? Any putting, green, anything like that?
So I have 3 bays.
Okay.
We actually just expanded. I'm big in the ground forces. I have a GASP dual plate system. I have a K-Vest for technology. Foresight, I use Foresight for the simulators. TrackMan's outstanding. Foresight's outstanding. I pick Foresight for my own personal reasons. I really like their stuff. But
and you have a little putting green there with a little chipping area as well, right?
Yep, I have a little putting, little chipping area. So things that I like to do. We talked about this, about not giving our stuff away. But things I like to do with my members, I have 2 whiteboards. One whiteboard are the monthly challenges, and the other whiteboard are the monthly practice plan. Nice. So when my members come in, there's a skills challenge, and there's a practice plan. Now, they don't have to do it, but I like to do, okay, this is wedge month.
Yep.
Okay, so we're grinding out 100 yards and in. and we're doing combines, and then we're going to put our scores up on the left, and we're going to have a contest. And, oh, by the way, I'm fortunate to be sponsored by TaylorMade and Nike. So whoever wins, I'll get you a pair of Nike shoes, or we'll get you some TaylorMade golf balls or things like that. So we reward. It's like a tournament. So the members come in. We use the stack system. So I got the stack system, and all my members they're on my app, and they can go through the whole stack workout.
Nice.
Golf Forever workout plan. So each time I listen to the members, much like you do with yours, and they give me ideas. If those ideas make sense, we implement them, and if they don't work, we throw them out.
Nice.
But we're, again, it's like it's always evolving. We're always trying to make it better.
Yep.
It's never going to be perfect the first go around, but I think we're doing a good job.
I mean, you are. I mean, I was fortunate enough, last year when I was building Clubhouse 54, involved with Makefield Putters, you allowed us to get in there and get some fittings done out of your facility on your putting green. So thank you for that. And it's a great spot. It really is. Definitely check it out. Check Mark out for sure. He's a great golf instructor. There's a reason that he's best in state in PA. I definitely trust Mark with my game. Trust him with knowledge, with learning from Mark, and there's a lot of what I implement today in my instruction through the amount of years that you and I have spent together with working on my personal game and just picking your brain, just working together, know. So thank you so much, and thanks for sharing your story too. And I know we didn't get into everything. There's some things that I really wanted to talk about, but we kind of went. I knew we were going to do that. I think we both knew that we were going to, kind of get off track, because that's what we do when we talk. We just continue to just ideas pop up in our head, but no, I really appreciate you coming on.
This was a treat for me. This was a treat, and I always thought, Michael's turned into a great interviewer, and I don't even feel like I'm being interviewed. This feels like you and I are just sitting on a chair, just talking.
That's the whole point of this. We want it to be as genuine as possible. The whole point of this is how can we share stories?
Yep.
A lot of podcasts, they talk about PGA Tour, they talk about equipment, but we never really hear, the story of the stories that you told us tonight. Like I said to you, I mean, you and I mean, we've spent a lot of time around each other, and I didn't know half of that we talked about tonight. So that's really what we're trying to do, is just get into the root of it, right? Who is this individual? Because I think it is important for our students to know who we are as well.
Absolutely.
Because they're investing in us, we're investing in them, and that is an important thing. And what if someone's like, hey, you know what? I'll never take a lesson from Sheftic because someone took a lesson and they didn't get any better. Like you were talking about before, where it was the student, and that person may listen to this and say, you know what? Wow, he's a great guy. I can learn a ton from him. I want to go on that same journey he went on and be a part of the guys, traveling around the country trying to play in events. So
just make sure you sign the right scorecard.
So hopefully we can inspire somebody. That's definitely part of the goal here. And so it's performance. It's ShefticPerformanceCenter.com.
Yep.
That they can find you. Okay. All right. Great. Anything on social media? Do you do any of that?
I'll be honest with you. That kind of hurts me a little bit. I used to do a little bit on social media. I don't. I really don't. I have an Instagram. I don't think I know what the name of it is.
That's all right.
M Sheftic or Sheftic Pressure Board or something like that.
Sheftic.
Facebook. I know I do a little bit of Facebook. I'm starting to show my age. I still have a Hotmail account, if that is meaningful. But I don't do a lot on social media. I just don't have time. And I don't know. When I did a lot when I was doing on social media, I see everyone just showing one swing and how great the person is, but that doesn't tell you the journey of how you get there. And I used to do that too, where look at my student. I'm like, I don't know if that's necessary. I know I did a good job, but anyways,
word of mouth is the best advertising.
Exactly.
So sometimes we do have to promote. Sometimes, like with this podcast, we're trying to grow it to get all these stories out there. So that's a little bit different than.
I think absolutely. I mean, I've watched a bunch of your podcasts, and I think they're fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, ShefticPerformanceCenter.com. That's how you find Mark Sheftic. Mark, this has been a pleasure.
Talk to Nicole. She's the boss.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely.